undetected when it's custom is expected. I'm flirting with my terminal, AV won't get rejected. Leveled up like Mario, many stories like a mansion. Coins pay me Monero, I don't need an introduction. Dr. Wi-Fi, I inject IVs. No KYC, no IDs, I just crack APs. Starbucks cloner Mickey D's. Shit, a burner land when I say my Wi-Fi is free. No identity, I could say I play a part. I switch the game like packets on a frame. Hoodie on my head in some comfy black jeans. Laying hometown, but I got wide access dreams. More than basic, my style fucking drastic. Like an init script, I'm everlasting. I'm ever running and no, I don't get tired. On tracks, I'm a train. On the web, I'm making shells ring.
What up, Vigilantes? I'm very happy to be here with one of my favorite figures in the entire crypto space, the CEO of Edge Wallet, Paul Puey. Paul, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Rafael. It's been a while, and so glad to finally make contact and be able to share the latest insights in the crypto space.
So we are going to have a summit, a virtual summit that anyone can attend. It's at tcvsummit.com, and the subtitle of this summit, of this virtual summit coming up September 12th, Friday, September 12th, will be what matters most in crypto. And so when I first thought about what matters most in crypto, obviously we all think about, technical analysis about the markets and how they're going. But when you really get down to what matters most in crypto, the first thing that came to mind is like Edge Wallet. And it's the truth, because it's, in my opinion, one of my favorite wallets. It's the wallet I recommend people from the jump. I have no affiliate partnerships with Edge. I keep the way I interact with the commercial side of the space clean, because that's how I want to keep my mind as objective as possible. And what matters most in crypto is your privacy and your security. And Edge Wallet has really taken a step beyond the normal interface to give you that security. Today, I want to talk to Paul about the Duress mode that the Edge Wallet now features. And I also want to talk about the privacy embedded within the options given within the Edge. There's an Edge exchange. Edge is an exchange as well. It has swapping features within it between cryptos. And I want to talk about the privacy and security features of that as well. How are you doing, Paul?
Doing great. Yeah, this is great. Long time coming to be able to go into these kind of nitpick details, that the nuanced details that make for great discussions, as opposed to just kind of like, what's the whiz bang, latest shiny object in the crypto space. So thanks for having me on this and having this discussion.
Something that that really gets me thinking a lot about what you guys have done in Edge is the fact that you guys start off as accountants and emphasizing an accountant's aspect to the wallet infrastructure, where people can plug and play their balances, their into a spreadsheet like QuickBooks straight from the Edge wallet. I thought that was, how about we start there? Give us a little background as to why that was the beginning of Edge and why that is at the forefront of everything that you guys do.
Yeah, that was the functionality of what I call just simply transaction tagging, transaction metadata, was at the very 1.0 release of our initial app, Airbits, which, I think back that was 2014 when we met. And at the time, our original app was Airbits and it already had that functionality. And so the functionality is such that when you send or receive a transaction from somebody, this is a digital payment method. We should be able to digitally save data as to what that transaction was for. Right? We're able to tag the transaction. Hey, that was from Rafael, or hey, I bought some coffee. The legendary "don't buy coffee with Bitcoin" narrative that the Maxis like to say. But you want to be able to know what this money was for. Cash, it's digital cash. Cash, it's a pain in the ass, right? Once you give out a $5 bill, it's like, what the hell? Where did the money go? Where did my stash go? But because we're in a digital world, it should be relatively easy to have the same tools in front of you that can track the transactions. And so you could not have to figure it out later and remind yourself, but right in the moment, right when you create that transaction or receive it, you can tag it. But we cared a lot about privacy, so we didn't want to just fold in like what you would see with like QuickBooks Online and Quicken and all of the other financial tools, which aggregate all that data into a central custodian, and so they can figure out how people are spending money and sell that data. Instead, we wanted to use full encryption of that information and backup and synchronization between your devices, like it is a cloud app, but with the privacy that the crypto community cares about. And so that is one of the core fundamental features in Edge. When you send money, there's like 3 different things you can tag in a transaction. One is who is the person that you sent money to or received money from, and you can select it from your contact list. And the funny thing is, a lot of people go, wait, you're asking for access to my contact list? In the app, it has to say, would you like to give us access? You don't have to, but if you do, nobody sees the contact list but you, right? It's the app on your phone, not the cloud, not Edge, not me, not my co-founders, not any of our staff that can see your contact list. It's just to, auto-complete the tagging of your transactions. And then you can mark a category, right? Is it income, income from, selling something, or is it expense, travel, expense, food and dining, that kind of stuff? Or is it a swap? Is it an exchange from one asset to another? You could tag that as the category. And then you have a general notes field where you can just type notes about the transaction, and all that's searchable as well. So you're like, when did I send funds over to Rafael? Type in Rafael, boom, there it is. Oh, that's how much I sent him, and here's the transaction ID, and I can send it over to you. So all that is metadata of a transaction, and it's all encrypted, all private and synchronized. So it gives you that feel of a cloud financial app without being the surveillance cloud financial app that a lot of people are used to. And so that is the accounting. Now, why did we get there? Because I used to do some accounting, right? I've worked in small business and did accounting for a restaurant. Not really accounting, it's bookkeeping. I was a general manager. And so when you start doing those things, you start appreciating being able to just know where your money went. And so I used that inspiration and put it right into our app because I wanted to be able to do it. And to this day, Edge uses Edge itself for all of our crypto transactions. And therefore, we can tag the transactions and know how we spent our money and categorize it and do our P&L and balance sheet appropriately.
Awesome. That's pretty cool. And so you not only created a crypto wallet, you created also a swapping service within it. Let's talk about that, this swapping service within it. I know you guys start off as a wallet, then you now are really emphasizing, no, we're more than that. We're like an ecosystem. Let's talk about that. What does this ecosystem offer the user?
So I guess less of an ecosystem. Ecosystem is a pretty general term. And one of the things that I guess I've kind of disagreed with the industry on is that wallets are like self-custody apps, because sometimes a fully custodial service calls themselves a wallet, and like they're basically a crypto bank. But a self-custody app like Edge should have its focus and be good at a specific task. That's what they always say to startups, right? It's like have some focus, have an MVP, and be good at the thing that you want to be good at. And so our original app, Airbits, was very focused on payments. That was what it was really good at. But unfortunately, in the crypto world, especially Bitcoin, payments just didn't become a thing, not in time for us to be a sustainable company. So we pivoted. It will be. No, absolutely. It will be. And I'm very excited for that.
Not in the way people expect.
And maybe by the time when it happens, maybe Airbits comes back, right, as a payments app. But we had pivoted to building an exchange-focused app because we noticed that a lot of people were still speculating on crypto with some payments, but speculating on crypto, and they were using centralized services to do that because they had all the features that they wanted. Easy onboarding with just a regular account, no key management, ability to buy and sell from bank account, credit card, and as well ability to convert crypto to and from, dollars, other fiat to crypto, and as well to different cryptos, right? Crypto to crypto, Bitcoin, ETH, Monero, you name it. And so we wanted to bring that experience that people had in a centralized exchange into the self-custody world where you own your own funds, you control your own money, and you have a much higher level of privacy. And so that's kind of what we define ourselves as. You can call it a trading wallet, an exchange wallet, or self-custody exchange. Many different ways to phrase it. We've even debated internally, what should we call ourselves? Like, what is the product? But in the end, a lot of people know us as a wallet, but it has very rich exchange functionality, right? And we connect to over a dozen different back-end, either exchange partners or decentralized exchanges, to give you that user experience you would get with a fully centralized custodian.
So, what do you think of, given how rich this the edge ecosystem is, um, I can't help but to ask you, it would make sense to me that someone could use the Edge wallet as a point of sale system for their business, because like someone has a mom and pop shop and they want to take crypto as payment, just, hey, tell them, hey, just download the Edge wallet because it has accounting features within it to, track and trace the, uh,
Where funds come in.
signatures there, everything ready to go to put into QuickBooks for them. So what is your thought about using the Edge wallet as a point of sale?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm sure our team will hate that I'll say this, but it works. It's not ideal, right? The user experience isn't ideal from a point of sale point of view. And a point of sale is one thing. I have been pitching to have somebody build a point of sale that really hits all the marks for like the past several years. I'm trying to almost recruit people interested to create another startup around building a very like high caliber, open source, fiat and crypto plugin module friendly point of sale. Edge is not that right now. Now, Edge can be a part of that. Like our infrastructure, our SDK can be part of that point of sale. But I've been a merchant in a physical exchange environment, and what I know about point of sales is sometimes they're very specific to the industry. Meaning, is it a restaurant? Is it a gym? Is it a nightclub? Blah blah blah. Or is it on the web? And you do need a much more custom-made UI for point of sale. So for Edge, it might take a few taps just to get to the QR code to show someone to receive money. Because if you notice, you ever use the centralized exchange like Kraken or Coinbase? How hard is it to get to a QR code to deposit money? It's a bunch of taps, right? Because that's not what you generally do in exchange. You deposit once and then you trade, right? Back and forth, back and forth. You link your bank once and then you go back and forth, back and forth. It's not a send out of the exchange, send into the exchange, send out, send in. And so you can't do everything really well. You have to focus on what you do. So Edge is focused on making it easy to obviously buy, sell, and trade. There are some hidden features in Edge, and maybe we can cover those little hidden features that make it easy to spend and receive, right? But they're not obvious. So from the viewpoint of a point of sale, it can work. And there are some people that use Edge as a point of sale. I went to PorkFest, a bunch of people are using Edge. It works great from that point of view of like, I just need to receive money. But a point of sale typically now, if you look at the big behemoths that are point of sale products like the Squares and the Clovers, they have a full like inventory management menu system. It tallies all the items that, it's like tap, okay, I want a coffee, then I want a muffin, blah, blah, blah. All right, steak and eggs, so boom, there's your total, adds tax. And it also does the payment processing, whether that be crypto, dollars, or whatnot. And so that complete experience is a point of sale. And so that's what I really want to see in our industry is a crypto and fiat friendly point of sale that can overtake the Squares and the Clovers and be open source, so it's relatively free to use, and expandable, so we can add whatever payment methods in whatever country you're at. And so that's what I'd say is a longer term thing. But for now, crypto isn't in a lot of point of sales, so people just have to use a separate app. And in that sense, yeah, Edge from a mom and pop can work great.
Yeah, I mean, you're very professional, because I come from the days that we were trying to pitch wallet.dats to so like, I'm living in Wonderland right now. I'm like, oh, where am I? It's beautiful. The crypto ecosystem is so beautiful now. It's like it's so accessible, so
it's much more accessible. We still have a long ways to go. It became accessible in ways I wouldn't have expected, and it's still inaccessible. Accessible from the viewpoint of the stuff that I actually don't care too much about, meaning like using your Scottrade and E-Trade account to go and buy ETFs, right? Like that's pretty accessible, but that's barely crypto to me, right? And so that isn't what I was expecting to be at in 10 years after, 11 years after I got involved.
Same here.
But it's still not very accessible from the viewpoint of I can't just walk down the street and use crypto at any Tom, Dick, and Harry merchant, or for most things, even online, I can't. It's gotten a little bit more with like gift cards and things like Bitrefill and, even some services like XMR Bazaar. I've actually found an amazing vendor on XMR Bazaar. Hats off to Doug Tooman for putting that project together. I found an amazing vendor for tallow potato chips here in San Diego,
Really?
and they take Monero. They're big fans of Monero. QR code right on their website, and they delivered right into our office. And so we have a bunch of them in our snack bar here. And so a little bit more, but I was expecting, it would be maybe at least as popular as the Discover card as a payment method, which like nobody uses anymore.
Jack, brother.
Yeah, we're all on the same page in that regard. It got hijacked, but I was hoping that some crypto would have taken its place to get that kind of adoption, but
Really,
not.
within the hijack world of that took over, if you see something like a digital currency group, I don't mean to talk bad about them. Did you ever take funding from them?
No.
Okay, good. Okay. Digital currency group is pretty much an arm of MasterCard. So and they fund a lot of the crypto space, if not majority of it. If you go to crunchbase.com and you just follow the money as to who these crypto entities took their money from, you're like, oh, okay, well, it's obviously they don't want to compete with the fiat.
Exactly.
It's obvious. Look at in a lot of the news outlets in crypto are owned by them. So CoinDesk owned by Digital Currency Group. You have no, sorry.
Used to be. I think they got sold. They got sold, I believe.
It's owned by the Founders Fund. The Founders Fund has an off branch, which I think is called Bullish Ventures, and Bullish Ventures bought out CoinDesk. So it's Peter Thiel that essentially runs CoinDesk now. So everywhere you look in crypto now, it's obviously this is threatening technology to the establishment that they have to kind of whoa, what's going on there, crypto kids? Slow your roll. So, I mean, we're in a good place where they have to take an active, they have to embrace crypto. They're no longer fighting it or denying it, but we have to definitely emphasize these P2P technologies that are native to crypto that they kind of want us to forget, which I find funny, right? Because they'll never be able to create P2P technology that we native Bitcoiners and crypto enthusiasts know it's possible. Don't you find that funny that
it's funny, but it actually makes sense though. If you think about it, they're like, oh yeah, sure, we're pro crypto, and we can get the big headlines, but they're going to be pro one aspect of crypto, right? And just that one sliver aspect, and not mention anything about anything else, like from the the payments point of view, the privacy point of view, the encryption. They don't talk Monero as being groundbreaking, great technology, because they don't want us paying with it, because that is the true disruptive nature. Once you're paying with it, you now achieve that true accessibility. You also achieve privacy if you use a privacy protocol like a Monero or a Pirate Chain, a Zcash. And so they don't want us using those pieces because they're the most disruptive pieces of them all. Using it as an investment, it's just like any other stock. Sure, go ahead,
right.
Get an ETF or invest in strategy. That's not going to disrupt the world. It's not going to change the world the way I think Bitcoin was originally invented to do. But it makes the narrative. It completes the narrative. Yeah, that quote unquote pro crypto. Granted, it's better than being completely anti crypto. Right. That's worse, where it's we don't want payments. We don't want you to own it. We don't, it should be illegal, blah, blah, blah. Shut down any company that tries to promote it. It's better than that. But I think people should make sure they're aware that it's not the complete picture, and still fight for the complete picture of everything crypto can bring.
What I see in the horizon coming is the banksters that are hijacking Bitcoin, that are trying to hijack Bitcoin and all of crypto. They are going to push carbon credits, for example, tyrannical initiatives as if it were crypto developments or crypto innovation. And I don't know if you've seen this, but MasterCard is now pushing the agenda on carbon credits, where carbon credits will be tracking you on your MasterCard. This is a pilot that they've already put out, and it's something that it's on its way. And then I see entities within the Bitcoin BTC ecosystem embracing MasterCard. It's okay, I see what's going on here. The syllogism, gives me the conclusion that they're going to push tyrannical initiatives through MasterCard, for example, and they're going to call it BTC innovation. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
No, I saw this coming for a while where, are we transacting Bitcoin? Are we using Bitcoin if someone swipes a card and it moves a Bitcoin balance from one account to another? Just like I can have a debit card and that can hold a dollar balance, it can hold a euro balance. What if that debit card held a Bitcoin balance? And when you go to your point of sale, it actually gives you a Bitcoin amount, in sats, because that's kind of cool, right? So it's in sats, and then you swipe your card and you're like, I paid with Bitcoin. But did you? Did you actually use the peer-to-peer network? Absolutely not. Right? It's exactly the same payment rails with all the same fundamental limitations, right? The same censorship that our payments have had for decades. And all you did is search and replace USD for BTC, right? That you gained nothing from that. Well, one would argue, well, that means I can hold Bitcoin now. I don't have to convert it to dollars, and the merchant is receiving Bitcoin. And that is the number go up play. It's the HODL, it's the investment play, but it's not a payment rail. It doesn't circumvent a lot of the restrictions in payments that have existed over the many decades that we've had digital payments. And so, yeah, I don't think it's not transformative the way I think Satoshi really envisioned. So it's a step in a direction. It's a slightly better direction, and I could see, MasterCard really, really making big waves within the Bitcoin community of saying, yeah, you can now pay with Bitcoin via MasterCard. But I think people are forgetting what the end goal really was there.
The good news is that our technology being peer-to-peer will always be superior to whatever they have to offer the market. Whatever they offer the market will always have a centralized player, which is themselves, which they intrinsically have to is in their nature to position themselves as the eavesdropper between Alice and Bob. And
Right.
and so, but we all will. The beautiful thing here is that we will always have the ability to create superior technology because we embrace the P2P infrastructure that Satoshi gave us fully. So that to me is good news, knowing that they can never and will never be able to co-opt that environment that's
Right.
native to the blockchain infrastructure itself. They can move it away from the blockchain, which is like what they did with BTC, move the emphasis of networking and transacting away from the Bitcoin blockchain back to the banks. That's what they did in BTC, but they will never be able to actually compete at the level of finality, throughput, efficiency that the blockchain native environment gives you. So
No, and especially privacy. Yeah. And I think now it's our job to co-opt them now, right? So they co-opt Bitcoin. Now it's our job to co-opt the financial system on payments. And I think one of I keep saying this, big missing pieces is an open source, very accessible point of sale that really sweeps the rug from underneath like I said, the Squares and the Clovers and the Micros payment systems of the world, because now you can just inject crypto into that. Merchant barely needs to deal with the difference whenever a consumer pays. And now we actually create a fully censorship resistant ecosystem. That's the ecosystem I think that we're in need of. And the pieces can come together. It's totally doable. Just haven't been enough people to focus on just that, because all of the excitement is in, well, let's just hold this thing and then make a company that is worth a bunch of money because we just hold Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think maybe you and I can drive this initiative, and I have a group of devs on standby that could help, that are passionate about this technology. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And just if you guys want to be on top of this, maybe DM me or DM Puey at a respective public accounts. And, if you want to be part of this initiative, because this is something that I could get behind as well,
Cool.
and support you in this endeavor, I think is also very necessary. Speaking of necessary, you guys created a Duress mode, which I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, how does it work and what's going on? And that's really what piqued my interest to have this conversation with you.
Yeah.
Because for Bitcoin OGs like myself, this is our Duress mode. Right? And so tell us about it. What is it? What made you come to this realization that it was needed? And how does it work on Edge?
Got it. So duress mode, where some people don't even know what the word duress means. What, duress means you're under duress, meaning you're kind of in a high uh, forced environment where someone's forcing you to do something, right? That's you're under duress. And my first encounter with a duress anything was a security alarm I had at home years back, and as well at a workplace that I was at, where if you enter the building, the alarm starts beeping, beep, 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 beep. You have like 1 minute to enter the PIN, right, to disengage the alarm. And many of those systems have a duress PIN or a duress mode where you can enter an alternate PIN and it disengages the alarm, but it actually notifies authorities, right? So if you have a gun to your head saying, hey, turn off the alarm because someone's trying to rob you at home, you enter that and cops show up. So whether or not you want them to show up or not is a side matter. Just know that's how the security systems work. And for a long time, we've asked ourselves, hey, we would like to put something into Edge similar to that. And obviously, some of the more recent past couple of years issues in our industry with people getting physically threatened because they own crypto has been a rise. We said, okay, let's just do this. Like, let's finally make this happen. It was quite a bit of engineering to get it to work. But what it effectively is similar to that alarm, right? Where there's a separate PIN that you can enter to kind of unlock the alarm. There's a separate PIN you can enter in Edge to unlock your wallets and unlock your account. And what it does is it basically unlocks a sub account. You go into settings in Edge and you say, I want to turn on duress mode. You pick a different PIN and boom, good. Now you go ahead and log in with that other PIN. That PIN will open up a sub account that initially will just be empty. It'll just have a few wallets, like Bitcoin, Ether, whatnot, but they'll be empty. Those wallets, though, in the sub account will now start to show up in your main account as well. And you can use them for just like a little rinky-dink spending. Put a couple $100s in there, buy some tallow potato chips from Fat Chips, on XMR Bazaar, right? Do your just normal day-to-day spending. Go to PorkFest and freaking buy anything you possibly want over at PorkFest, and some maybe even like Monerotopia, and Acapulco. Go buy some cab rides with Monero, right? I remember that's what we had to use. But now you have this small set of wallets that show up under your duress account, that sub account. So on a normal basis, you can just use your regular PIN. Weird little Apple thing here. You can use your regular PIN to log into your primary Edge account, which has the bulk of your funds. But if you're ever under duress and someone's forcing, hey, give me the PIN to your phone, or the PIN to unlock Edge, or they just force you to unlock Edge, you can enter the duress PIN. And that duress PIN will only show that subset of accounts that you use for your little rinky-dink spending. And you don't have to enter your duress PIN on a regular because those small sub wallets also show up in your main account. And if you remember with Edge, every wallet is a separate set of keys, right? It's not one key to rule them all. And so what the app is doing is it's creating a separate set of keys for your duress account, but then also making those keys accessible to your regular account for your normal day-to-day spending. At its heart, that's basically it. It's it's a duress PIN. It's a separate PIN that logs into a separate account that can have just a smaller set of funds. And so, a thief can take those funds, but at least believe that, hey, okay, they're done, and not affect the vast majority of your funds.
So, I mean, the Edge wallet has a lot of features, obviously. Like it's very comprehensive. For the interface of, I understand you can download Edge into an M1, M2 Mac.
No, you heard that, yeah.
Yeah. So, how are you guys working on a desktop client that is more suitable
or native? We would love to. It's definitely it's always on our roadmap and always gets pushed aside by other things that necessarily occur, primarily because a lot of blockchains are very, I don't call it, let me say it nicely, dynamic. Meaning they change and we have to update the app to keep up to date with a lot of different blockchains. And that has taken up a vast majority of our time such that it's hard for us to go and really hunker down and get that desktop app out. But know that it is a noted priority that we would really, really want to get out there. And in the meantime, yes, you're right. If you have an up-to-date Apple MacBook or Mac Mini or whatever from probably 2021 and on, you could likely put Edge on it, right? You can go to the Mac App Store and choose iPhone apps and install Edge. And I actually use it on my MacBook pretty regularly. I give hats off to Apple. We made no effort to make it work, you know, in any special way on a desktop, but it works very fluidly. Like, you know, you can do the 2-finger scroll up and down and whatnot. It feels very fluid. There's no keyboard popping up in your way because it's not really a phone. They did a great job with the kind of this simulation of an iPhone on a desktop, to the point where if we could just get that on everything, like on Linux and Windows, and you know, it's already on Mac or all the other Macs, we'd be pretty happy. That would be a great starting point. But unfortunately, yeah, it's only on those a subset of Macintoshes, but it works great. Give it a try. Let us know what you think.
Awesome. Yeah, I actually have it. I have it downloaded. I have to give it a go. On the computer. So I understand that there is a feature within the Edge wallet that allows you to disable any exchange that requires KYC AML. At the TCV Summit on September 12th, we're definitely going to go through everything regarding the Edge wallet, and we're going to go. He's going to show us exactly where to disable that. But if you could just please give us a quick rundown on like where to disable KYC exchanges, and is it something that you guys are making more apparent for the user?
Yeah, so this little reminder on these quote unquote KYC exchanges. So Edge supports both. This is for the sake of conversion of one crypto to another, right?
Yes.
So there's two kinds of exchange operations in Edge. One is a fiat on and off ramp. This is like to and from bank account, credit card. And then another is crypto to crypto. And those are two notably different interfaces in Edge, right? When you want to go crypto to crypto, we by and large very highly want people to be KYC free, right? So, but unfortunately, that option is not going to support every single asset in the world, right? Not every single crypto. So we've incorporated, I think, gosh, now maybe 15 to 18 different exchanges inside of Edge for crypto to crypto swaps. Many of them, about 7 or 8 of them, are still C5, meaning they're centralized companies. Now, many of them, they do not want to do KYC. We've talked to every single one of them. They definitely don't want to, but because they are centralized companies and they have to adhere to AML laws, you know, depending on the transaction and its, you know, like source and destination address, and is it an OFAC address, or the funds a few hops away from, you know, a potential malicious actor, they occasionally will have to do KYC on a transaction. It's a very small subset of the transactions that actually go through our system, you know, that would get KYC'd, but it does happen. It's happened to me, right? And so it can happen, and it's kind of like a frustrating, annoying thing when it does happen. And so with that, we've really focused all our effort into incorporating decentralized exchanges. So decentralized exchanges, none of them will KYC because they're a protocol, right? They can't KYC, right? They can't freeze your funds. Some of them may refund, though. They may auto refund if they determine that a transaction comes from some illicit funds. This is known on Chainflip. I don't know why my computer shows these random memes here. I've got like the gestures enabled, I think. Let me turn those off. So some of them actually will, where the miners, the validators of a decentralized exchange will actually have a blacklist of addresses, and if transactions from those addresses come through, they just pop them right back. They just send them right back. The DEXs that we have integrated, to the best of my knowledge, do not do that. So we have Thorchain and Maya Protocol are the two big cross-chain DEXs that we have integrated. As well, we have DEX aggregators. Rango Protocol, LeFi are two big ones that we've integrated. SwapKit as well. And they can do not just cross-chain, like bridging from, like, say, like Ethereum over to Solana, but it can also swap within a chain different tokens on that chain, right? Think, you know, Pepe to Trump coin, whatever, right? It can do a lot of that. And all of that is through pure decentralized exchanges, decentralized bridges, so that you don't have a central party that could freeze the funds and ask for KYC. But what Edge does right now is it finds you the best price. right? So if a DEX can give you a better price, that's what shows up. If a CeFi provider gives you a better price, that's what's going to show up. You can always change it though. So one little tip and edge is when you get your quote, there's a little button that shows you what the provider is, and you can tap on that provider and it'll list all the other ones that could execute that swap. It'll show which ones are a centralized exchange, which ones are a decentralized exchange, and it'll show you the price difference between them all. So for those of you that would like a decentralized exchange, but you don't want to limit yourself because at times the price difference can be, pretty notable, a few percent. This is a great option. So for every single swap, you can tap it, you can look at all of the different options, and it'll show this is a decentralized, this is not. You can say, oh, that price isn't too different. It's only like maybe 25 basis points. I'll choose the decentralized exchange, even if it's not as good of a deal. So that is one way to answer, it's one way that you can choose a DEX. Hopefully answering your question. That's one of the ways. Another way is to prefer decentralized exchanges, and that you can go into the settings of the app and say, I prefer decentralized. Right now it's best price, right? But you can choose, I prefer decentralized. What that means is regardless of the rate that you get, if a decentralized exchange can execute your swap, that's what's going to get chosen, but you'll still see all the other options if you tap on that little button on the quote screen, and you can see all the other options. So you'll always surface a decentralized exchange. That's what I have chosen in my account, right? I'm always using a decentralized exchange.
By default for always.
It's the default.
To always be decentralized exchange.
For the primary quote to always be a decentralized exchange.
Okay. The primary quote. Okay,
the primary quote, but you can always tap a little button on the quote screen and see all the quotes. So that way you're not restricted. If ever you're like, okay, that's the primary quote, but maybe I want to see if there's any better prices and how much better they are, even if they happen to be a CeFi centralized provider, you can do that. So that's what I call like the second way, is to prefer decentralized. And then the third way is you can literally turn off all of the CeFi providers. It shows you in our settings. You go settings and you go to exchange settings, and it'll show everything, all the decentralized exchanges, all the CeFi exchanges, and they'll have a little check, a little toggle switch on the right side. And you can toggle whichever one's off that you don't want to use. Then you will not see any quotes from them no matter what. All right. And so that's up to everyone to choose. You can turn off some CeFi providers. If you're like, I heard this one's pretty good, but this one's not, then I'm going to turn off some providers if I feel like I don't want to take the risk of those providers because they might KYC me. And so any of them might. That's the thing, is any of them might, but some may have higher odds than others, and you can research which ones you think are better or worse than others and turn off the ones you don't want to use. You just won't see the quote at all. So those are the different levels of being able to set your preferences from the viewpoint of decentralized versus centralized exchange.
Is it necessarily true that a centralized exchange that requires KYC is actually cheaper?
No.
People have that misconception that they think
absolutely not
will give me a cheaper rate, right? Not right, correct?
Absolutely not. And especially not true because a lot of centralized exchanges are actually getting their liquidity from a decentralized exchange. So when you go to an exchange and you request a quote, you don't realize that they're just getting some money from they're actually executing that swap using a decentralized exchange, but they're taking a cut on top of that in addition to it. And so going directly to the DEX is going to end up becoming cheaper. So
that was always my assumption, because people kept telling me, well, I would get a better rate going through KYC, and I'm like,
you might.
No, if anything, a decentralized exchange I don't think it would ever, a well-constructed KYC, a well-constructed decentralized exchange should function as a blockchain.
It does. Exactly. And they do exactly function as a blockchain.
There's no overhead of like paying, for lights and bills, right?
You're paying for the validators though, right? So a decentralized exchange does need validators, and they have to stake and you have to reward them. So there's still notable cost, but the biggest thing that actually impacts the rate you're going to get is the liquidity. So it's a real question: is how much liquidity does Coinbase and Kraken have if you want to go from dollars to USDC? I'm sorry, dollars such as USDC to Bitcoin or Monero, and then you have to look at, well, what's that equivalent liquidity look like on Thorchain or Maya protocol? And so the liquidity question is really that's one of the biggest determining factors in how good of a price you're going to get. right? And there's some subtle technologies there that can improve or make it worse in the DEX world. But in general, the more money that's sitting there liquid, ready to go, the better price you're going to have than if there's barely any money sitting on the exchange. And that's true for both CeFi, centralized versus and decentralized.
That's awesome. What is geeking you out most in crypto right now?
Interestingly enough, there's two things that I'm more geeking out on. One are the privacy protocols like Xano. I'm excited about confidential layer finally launching, and I'm geeking out about the potential of, as much as I hate the dollar, I know it's a gateway. Like I know that stablecoins are a gateway drug into real crypto, and I'm excited and looking at all the different options of how we can get a true decentralized, not USDC, not Tether, and people hate me for saying this, not even FUSD, right? Because that's a centralized stablecoin, but a true decentralized stablecoin off one of the programmatic blockchains, EVM blockchains, and even the Bitcoin layer twos, right? And getting that
script.
Right? Sure, if that can be bridged, we could, if we can do it there, and then bridging that into a privacy blockchain like Xano, right? And then getting that transactable both in a cheap and a fully private way. That's one of the things that I'm like, I don't want to call it geeking out, but just very excited about, right? Because that really hasn't existed before. And with that existing, you can onboard the people that, especially in like developing countries that aren't really too keen on the volatility of crypto, but are very big on the payments aspect of crypto, which is why Tether is so popular, around the world, is that it was at one point cheap on the Tron blockchain, and it allowed developing countries access to a better, more stable currency than what they natively had. But now be able to do that with a full level of privacy, that excites me. So that's one thing that, I'm definitely excited about. And then as well, being able to, what in the world? Pause. I'm glad we're editing this thing. We have a TV in this room, and someone just suddenly started streaming Spotify to it. 1 second. The world is too connected. Yeah, I think someone just suddenly clicked the wrong button on we have a little iPhone DJ, iPhone to play music in the office, and I think someone clicked the output to go to this TV and suddenly just started blaring. Okay, TV off. Anyway.
Happy. It seems like you guys have a really cool environment there at your headquarters.
No, it's a fun spot. Yeah, definitely. Come by and visit. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, I think I will come visit. When is your next little I know you guys have like conferences almost every month, like meet.
Yeah, just meetups. Yeah. Next one's slated for the last Tuesday of August, but it hasn't been posted yet. We're just getting confirmation. I don't want to leak who's supposed to come out, because if it doesn't work out, it has to get pushed another month. People are like, Paul. But yeah, we have an exciting guest coming by close to the end of this month. So hope to get that out hopefully this week, get it pushed out. But yeah, we got other months available as well. So if ever you're in town, let us know. Love to have you. But getting back to kind of the stuff that I'm excited about. So yeah, one, the privacy for the stable coins coming off a lot of the programmatic chains, because we can bridge that now with confidential layer. And then two, I'm actually very curious of what happens to Bitcoin, BTC, with the advent of its layer twos, right? Bitcoin by itself was kind of co-opted. It's layer one, Lightning Network, totally co-opted, totally centralized, doesn't work. But does it actually have potential through its layer twos, both for privacy and for programmability, in a way that is peer-to-peer, right? Like pure peer-to-peer, not dealing with like, just put it into like Liquid, which is federated, or Lightning Network, which is gravitating towards being totally centralized. And can we use that even if it's not BTC for payments, but BTC to back a stable coin that then gets bridged over onto Xano, and then we transact with a private Bitcoin. And so it opens up some interesting possibilities that I think are like I've been very critical of Bitcoin for years. This is what I think is its last hope to be competitive long term. And if this doesn't work out, then yeah, I think it's really headed for notable trouble long term. But this is one to keep an eye out on, both as someone that really champions a lot of its competitors, right? Like I champion a lot of the competitors, like when Bitcoin Cash had forked, I'm like, okay, well, this is actually a more viable payment method. Monero is a notable competitor because it has significantly higher privacy. And then all the chains that are much more programmable are competitors. And if you think about it, the market cap or the not the market cap, but the percentage of the market cap of Bitcoin plummeted when Ethereum came out. It was the first real competitor of functionality to Bitcoin. And that's where we went from like 90% of the market cap to like 50, 40%. Now we're hovering around 60. That was right when Ethereum became like a notable currency in the sea of altcoins that were just fork. Like they're like Litecoin, Dogecoin, Monza coin, blah blah blah. Like all the coins were just like copy paste Bitcoin and change it.
Yeah.
Ethereum was one of the first ones that actually, okay, let's actually make something different and new. And so this is kind of the first time, not the first. I mean, Bitcoin's had, what was it, Rootstock, but they're a little behind on their tech, even though they are Ethereum based. This is like the first time a good amount of backing is really trying to create more functionality to Bitcoin that a lot of us have been wanting to see. And so I'm keeping my eye on that and seeing what really comes out of that, and especially from the privacy realm, because there has been talk of like a privacy layer 2 on Bitcoin. So those are the two things I think are I'm geeking out on, since that's how you phrased the question.
I personally think Ethereum was a step back, to be completely honest, because the UTXO model is superior to the account-based model in all aspects. So to me, Ethereum was almost like a psyop to justify the hijacking of Bitcoin.
You want to have a fun podcast?
Okay.
Let's debate that. Let's debate that. Huge, because that makes fun for fun podcasts, right?
Yeah.
Right? Can't all just agree in an echo chamber. So Ethereum has huge hurdles. Like its architecture has. I will definitely not argue that there's some major hurdles in the account-based architecture, especially scaling it. Right, huge hurdles in scaling. It's not.
Centralized Eye of Sauron. This was developed by the banking system, actually, the account-based model, to keep in. So that's why all of the nodes share a global state.
Mhm.
You can't scale in parallel horizontally with the account-based model. And so Satoshi broke the mold by giving us the UTXO model. We can scale unboundedly horizontally. The programmability of Bitcoin, in my opinion, is more of a threat to the establishment than P2P currency aspect of Bitcoin. I think the P2P aspect of Bitcoin and jumpstarts and maintains and creates a capitalist meritocracy for Bitcoin's computational power. But Bitcoin's computational power, in my opinion, is more robust on chain than anything the account-based world could ever give you, even including Solana. And I think that, well, I know that if you study who are the brains behind the layer 2 initiatives within BTC, they're all big blockers. And this all started when the Lightning Network, you very well said, could not scale, could not contain, could not really. You said the Lightning Network. You called
It trends towards centralization.
it trends towards
It
centralization.
trends of funds, not nodes.
Correct.
So that's even worse. So I know most blockchains trend towards centralization of the nodes and the miners. That's just kind of natural. But the Lightning Network trends towards centralizing actual holding of funds. And that is the risk. It's not just centralization of nodes, and that's a big one. Like the liquidity problem is pretty large. Lightning.
The moment that kind of became very obvious in the market, and the selling of the Lightning Network to VCs and the market became almost obsolete. It is obsolete because of what you just said, and the routing problem and the hub and spoke dynamic within it and all these issues that the Lightning Network has within it, immediately Bitcoin developers started turning to other aspects of Bitcoin, and they started now saying things that the most forbidden character in crypto history had been saying, Craig Wright, that Bitcoin's a Turing complete machine. And from that moment on, I have screenshots where they're sharing and learning from Craig Wright about Bitcoin's about the Turing complete nature of Bitcoin. And here you have now the building out by Super Testnet and Robin Linus of BitVM. This programmable nature of Bitcoin was highly influenced by S-Script, Xiaowei Lu, and his team and the people behind him. Little do people realize that Xiaowei Lu really learned a lot about Bitcoin, if not most about Bitcoin, from Craig Wright himself. So you have all of these big blockers now influencing BTC. You have guys like Jack Lu now being the head of strategy for Starknet, which is a layer 2. You have the guys from Unisats, which are also BSV native guys, running Fractal, the Fractal layer 2. So you really see is a movement of people that have gone from a version of Bitcoin BSV that has been suppressed. But now that the market demands for there to be innovation in BTC, they saw an opportunity to move their efforts into BTC and make money by selling layer 2s. But they all deep down know that these layer 2s are only a step to an on-chain programmable Bitcoin. And this is why the core devs in BTC they read this movement in anticipation, and they are engaging in what they call the Great Script Restoration, which is to restore the opcodes that they themselves took away from BTC. And yet, in other words, what I read into that is that they're getting ready to scale BTC if BTC is ever threatened by another Bitcoin. And the problem here is that BTC is like, they would be going against their own base. And that's what we've started seeing with
infighting within the Bitcoin community. We're the maxis are now the maxi A's and the maxi B's and the maxi C's that are disagreeing on things. And I had predicted this a while back. Whether or not it leads to another hard fork, we'll see. But at the end of the day, I want to, maybe this gets a bit more technical for this discussion, but you had mentioned, I think Ethereum was a step in the wrong direction or backwards. But
yeah,
the programmability of EVMs, Ethereums, and even Solanas that are not EVM, but are the global state that you're referring to, right? While it has the disadvantage of scaling, it is harder to scale. I will not say it's impossible to scale, because there's some darn really sharp engineers looking at solving that problem. And there's some blockchains that appear to have solved that problem. It does give you the vision of true financial Legos, right? That's kind of one of the memes and narratives of Ethereum, is that you have these financial building blocks, and one building block can be used in another building block, can be used in another building block. Case in point example, you can create a stable coin using a smart contract. That stable coin can get deposited in a completely different smart contract to go and earn yield from someone borrowing that stable coin. And your deposit into that smart contract and the yield that you earn can then be tokenized, with an LP token that can then get deposited in another smart contract. That the financial building blocks, those Lego pieces working together from independent contracts that don't have to know that each other exists, that's possible because of the global state of an EVM or similar type of protocol, and that's not possible with the UTXO. So the UTXO has this great ability to scale. I don't doubt that at all. I give credit where credit's due. You know what I mean? Like, nothing's perfect, right? And so I give credit to UTXO because it can scale much better, because you don't have to have global state. I just know about this UTXO. I just have to know if that thing is spent or not, right? And you could subdivide the work of a network to say, hey, you deal with these UTXOs, and you don't have to care about anything else. You deal with those UTXOs. You could shard UTXOs much more easily. Much harder to shard global state. But the power of that global state is tremendous from the viewpoint of replacing a lot of the financial institutions that exist today. Think the BlockFis and the Celsiuses that were centralized and offered the exact products I was just talking about, right? Being able to earn yield on your crypto, on your dollar, and be able to take out loans on your crypto, on your dollar, be able to create a stable coin that gets sent back and forth full programmatically and have all of them work together. That's what you really get from that global state. And that's powerful because it takes away the power from the centralized custodians that try to offer those exact products, but do it fully centralized, KYC, sorry, you're not rich enough to join our club type of products. DeFi makes it possible. So I've always nerded and dorked out about DeFi. But granted, it has its shortcomings, i.e. some aspects of scale for sure. But man, the things that you can bring in addition to payments, because payments is one piece of the puzzle. I think it's one of the most important pieces of the puzzle, but it's the foundation of what I call the financial stack. Just like there's a technology stack, whenever people build apps and products, there's a technology. Well, there's a financial stack. And at the bottom is the money. Next is payments. And then there's everything else on top of that. Payments is a fundamental important piece of that financial stack, but you need things above that because that's how the world operates, so that we don't just simply hold money and send and receive it. We also have financial agreements between each other, and that's what DeFi is. And you need pretty strong programmability to be able to really impart good quality DeFi. And that's what fully programmable blockchains that have that global state kind of give you.
Well, Paul, I agree with you. And because of what we saw with Ethereum, Bitcoiners started asking these same questions, and they came to the realization that Satoshi gave us the mechanism to actually have that and the scalability at the same time. The thing with Bitcoin is that it's so mammoth that Bitcoiners just have to agree on what protocols that run on top of Bitcoin to use to have interoperable applications and tools. So that mindset, the mindset of how Ethereum was built in a way that was interoperable, that mindset has carried into Bitcoin building itself. So it's actually I honestly don't see that anymore as an advantage in the Ethereum ecosystem. If anything, what I see it really happening is that Ethereum forces the entire community, because they do share a global state. It forces the community to the account-based model to marry a single a specific protocol stack. Whereas in Bitcoin, since it allows you to, you don't share a global state, there is more options, and within that optionality, now it's up to the community to decide what token protocols they prefer over others. So the biggest issue that we had in Bitcoin history was that we had so many options when we had BSV. In BSV, that was honestly the biggest issue, because there's so many infinite possibilities that everyone and their mama had their own token protocol. Whereas in Ethereum, It was really easy for that community to say, no, you know what, we're going to do ERC20. And we're going to really develop the stack for ERC20.
Actually, Ethereum being account-based didn't make ERC20 an easy standard, because Ethereum has the same problem. ERC20 is just a way of writing a contract. There is no token baked into Ethereum. People probably don't realize this, but Ethereum in no way, shape, or form knows anything about tokens. There is no token standard on Ethereum. The users and the developers of Ethereum created one and rallied around it.
Correct.
And why did they do that, though? Why did they do that? The reason why they rallied around a standard is because by rallying around that standard, the standard token can then get used in other contracts that are not for tokens.
Correct.
And this is the inherent problem with the UTXO model, is if I create a token in the UTXO model, right, and it's a fully programmable token, it cannot be used in someone else's contract.
You could spin Yes, you can. Yes,
to my understanding, you cannot. So this is part we need to do a bit of the research. If I create a token that is a stable coin that balances, that is held stable by a MakerDAO equivalent, right?
Right.
You deposit some Bitcoin, BSV, whatever, and then it mints a stable coin. That and the programmability of that stable coin, of how it can then go back into the contract and then redeem the funds, that wouldn't be usable on a completely separate contract that someone else builds. That interoperability between the two is global state, right? That is global state. And that is what you don't get in a UTXO model, is two completely separate programs being able to talk to each other, because UTXOs can only talk to their previous UTXO, their previous UTXO, their previous UTXO. They can't go and cross over between each other. And without them being by effectively kind of like the same owner, right?
The problem that we had in Bitcoin, in developing an understanding of Bitcoin programmability, is that because we had the Bitcoin Civil War, a lot of the habits of thought that are particularly small blocker have carried over into even BSV development, where there is a necessity to still consider the need for having to create protocols that have to index the entire blockchain. And so, but you don't really need that. And right now there are like modern protocols on BSV that completely do away with the need to having to index and run through the entire blockchain, because you don't have a global state. Well, actually there is I'm gonna have to send you two examples.
Please. Yeah.
I'm gonna send you two examples of a token protocols on BSV that don't need for you to index the entire blockchain anymore. And this is actually a very new revolution here, because even up to recent history, the bad habits of the way small blockers were thinking carried over into BSV, where when we had ordinals on BTC, BSV developers felt the need to create a one-sat ordinals, which, yes, you can program everything into one sat. However, you're still dealing with the whole indexing thing. So even the architecture of one-sat ordinals was still small blocker in design.
Right.
You don't need to index the entire blockchain. You can just engage the blockchain. And I can't, I think one of them, I can't think of the two names right now off the top of my head, but I'm going to find you those two token protocols and send them to you so you can investigate them. And I really think that is testament of how much more there is to learn about Bitcoin, that just now people in BTC have begun to discover that Bitcoin is programmable to begin with.
It's very programmable.
But how
I won't argue with that
model engages within that programmability is something that a lot of the world is still just now beginning to discover. And I'm going to send you these two, let's call them MVPs of what I'm demonstrating, what I'm referring to, so that you can see for yourself.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look at them. And I've never argued that the UTXO model isn't programmable. And I think it's more programmable than I originally realized back in like 2014, 2015.
Yeah, same here.
I came to the realization, yes, you can make it Turing complete as well. But the extent of my study shows that Turing complete programmable does not mean that you can have programs that can talk to each other. Those are two very different things. It's kind of like, I think of the UTXO model as having a powerful computer on your desk, right? That can actually go ahead and, create execute these programs. I think of the global state as having multiple computers connected to the internet that can actually talk to each other, right? Where my program on my computer can talk to your program, and your computer can talk to another program and, someone else's computer, right? And they're not siloed. And so Turing complete doesn't mean that these programs can talk to each other. It just means that you have like if, then, else, right? State within yourself, and you can jump and conditionalize your execution. But the ability to take the output of that program and send it over to a completely different program elsewhere that someone else is executing, that's the piece that the global state gets you at a heavy cost, though. I don't argue that heavy cost of scale, right?
Well, I'm going to show.
But capability.
Yeah.
But the capabilities are the ones that I would argue. I'm open to being challenged on that, and there's going to be great things you can build, right? There's still great things you can build. And I think that if you can build it on a UTXO model, definitely go for it. It's harder. It's for sure harder, but it's possible. But can you build something that is like true interoperable between different smart contracts that are launched independently that don't know anything about each other?
Yes, you can.
That I will, I will take to the.
I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you a demo that just came out yesterday of the MetaNet, which is Bitcoin as an internet on BSV. It just came out. I'm gonna show it to you.
All right. I'm willing to.
As a supercomputer, it's already functioning, dude. It's the MetaNet highway. I'm gonna send you the demo that was just put out yesterday, and I want you to give me your honest feedback, please.
Will do.
And
Yeah, that's all we give each other, right?
I'm very excited about this stuff, man. And let me tell you, if there's something that geeks me out, is this conversation and my realization that because I was caught up fighting this civil war on what I consider really dumb aspects of Bitcoin, like the really simplistic stuff, like should we scale on chain? Should we not? Like kept us from learning more about what Satoshi gave us. And what he gave us is just is jaw-dropping, man. So I'm going to send you that demo that came out yesterday. I'm also going to send you another demo, which is another demo that's actually just came out as well yesterday, which is on how to make sure that your phone communication is always P2P. Because like they tell me Telegram, they tell me WhatsApp is encrypted. But how do I know there's not a backdoor and like Zuckerberg is not listening to my conversation? It's like,
Right.
If you have a phone on a scalable Bitcoin, that wallet to wallet phone call, I can cryptographically have encryption running on chain as well to protect our privacy and communication. But that point to point interaction from wallet to wallet without having to assures me that there's not an eavesdropper. I'm gonna send you that as well, which is something badass, man. So
Okay, I'm open to hear.
I'm sending you 4 things: the 2 the 2 token protocols that show you that you don't have to index anymore. Like that's just ridiculous. And the other thing I'm gonna send you is the demo of the MetaNet, which is the internet, the Bitcoin as an internet, and also send you how P2P confirmation and communication is now possible. So I'm gonna send those 4 things to you when we're done with this call.
I will check it out and let you know what I think.
And if I'm wrong, call me out, please. I do not want to live in ignorance or in error. Please call me out.
Same here as well.
Cool. So that's where I'm at. So you're also geeking out about stable coins, and I want to ask you about your idea of this stable coin that you have in mind. Going back to that conversation, you mentioned that you want a stable coin that originates in a scalable blockchain, but how is that stable coin pegged? I
It depends what you mean.
peg stable coins seem a little bit like not as trustworthy to me as something backed by something real, like a bank or even US treasuries, if you want to go statist, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you think a bank and U.S. treasuries are real, then sure.
Yeah,
So if you want privacy in stablecoin transactions, and I mean full like Monero level privacy, not the kind of privacy a bank gives you where they don't tell your buddy your balance, but they know it and they know all your transactions. That to me is bank level privacy. If you want real Monero level privacy in a stable coin, you will need a stable coin that is fully algorithmic. Like I just don't see another way, because if there is a counterparty, I always ask this question, right? If you go and create a stable coin and you yourself hold the collateral, whether that's dollars, treasuries, gold, I know there's people trying to create a gold stable coin. And then you mint this thing, and then it is bridged over into Xano and somehow deemed used for illicit purposes. And illicit is very subjective, right? What US thinks is illicit, another country is like, that's our day-to-day ops. But whatever they deem illicit, do not expect that you'll get a knock on your door saying, we would like to freeze those funds that are backing your stablecoin because they've been used to, fund a poor family in Iran. right? I think you're almost certainly going to get the knock on the door, right? Or at least you definitely better expect to, and be in a jurisdiction that you hope the big boys can't go after.
Right.
And I would not use that stablecoin on a privacy chain, because if the funds got frozen on the bridge, like confidential layer, right, then my stablecoin tanks in value, right? So just because they don't like the privacy side doesn't mean that they can't just simply freeze the transparent side, because it's really the transparent coins that are backing the privacy coins right? That's how a bridge works. It gets locked on one side, minted on another. And so I sure as hell wouldn't trust a coin that has that's on a privacy layer and it's collateralized by a central entity. So hence we need an algorithmic coin. Now, a lot of people have like this knee jerk, like, oh shit, not an algorithmic coin. We know we've been through Terra Luna, right?
Yes.
And everyone's got PTSD from Terra Luna.
Everyone but Jeff Berwick.
Yeah, because he bought it like 0.00, like absolute, caught the knife. Damn that guy. Hats off to him.
Genius. Yeah.
Yeah. Even he realized that everything can, even something going to zero can bounce off zero. So
that was so genius. Anyway.
But anyway, so
I was in the room as he was doing it. I'm like, I was almost in shock, like, and because I'm inexperienced and compared to him when it comes to investing and trading.
He knows.
But what a master class he gave us, man. Anyway,
he did. So for everyone else that still has PTSD and lost millions and whatnot, they're like, no, algo stablecoins don't work. But what they don't realize, you got to look at all the different algo stablecoins, and all of them have different pros and cons. And Terra Luna had one gigantic con, which is it's fully backed by a coin that had no other purpose, right? A coin that had no general adoption. I mean, no, money has value just because a couple of people believe it has value. And so where they see that value, it becomes the question. Do they see the value because, oh, it's like the digital gold? Oh, because I can pay for things with, oh, because it's the gas for programmability. Luna had almost none of that. It has value because it's what backed the stablecoin. And that's not what gives it value. That's what you do with it when it has value, right? Once something actually has value, then you can back a stablecoin with it. It doesn't have value because it backs a stablecoin. That's the exact opposite, right? And so that was the intrinsic flaw with Luna, is you had no utility in this coin first before you then go and back something else.
Yes.
And love or hate Bitcoin, there's enough people that love it to give it some value that could back a stablecoin, and to some degree even ETH has that. And so backing a stablecoin with more stable assets. And then, of course, having some significant over collateralization to make sure there's well more than what the coin would historically drop in volatility, is kind of the necessary piece of the puzzle that we haven't really had, or we have had, but people aren't aware of them. So there are stable coins like Money on Chain DOC that have been around for years, since I think 2017 on Rootstock. And at least last I checked, I haven't checked in a few months, but it's held its peg. And it's backed by not just Bitcoin, but a few different financial primitives and incentives that motivate people to keep that thing backed and keep that thing pegged. And these are the things that I want to see bridged over, because there's no central party that can freeze the funds, right? It's a pure smart contract. And admittedly, if it's just the stablecoin, you're not trying to do Lego building blocks with it, right? It could be on Bitcoin script, right? It easily could be, because it's just that. I only argue the global state if you want to make it Lego building blocks. But if you just want to bridge it into Xano, and Xano has no programmability either, right? It's just for payments, but super private. The source of that algo stablecoin, I'm still researching and looking at the different options, and also discovering what has existed and that I just wasn't even aware of, because everyone's just jerking off on USDC, thinking that's like the end all be all, which I'm hoping it's just the beginning, and it has its own end, because we get to the real stable coins.
The real stable coins.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely an opportunity there for a lot of people. So,
yeah, who's going to build it, or who has?
I just have things in my mind right now that I don't know if if I can or should talk about, because they may be private to some people.
I'll leave it to you then to decide on that one.
Right. It's just no, I think I'm not going to talk about it, but there are definitely a lot of endeavors out there focusing on trying to figure out what you're figuring out. And yeah, it's just so you would see it. What would the peg be? What would be the asset that would you say Bitcoin BTC would be the asset to algorithmically peg a proper stable coin? That would be like
That would
ultimate asset, right?
I won't call it ultimate. It's what I call the best one right now,
The best one right now, yes.
and probably for the next 5-ish years.
Sure.
And of course, if a protocol is, fully programmable and dynamic and has, you know, probably governance tokens that can vote on what does back the coin, that can change over time, right? The thing that actually backs the coin can slowly morph, much like DAI originally was backed by ETH, had some aspects of Maker token backing it, but it morphed, unfortunately, in the wrong direction, right? Where now it's backed by USDC, or at least partially backed by USDC. So in that same sense, like BTC is a pretty good option to back a coin today. That might not be the same in the future, but the contract, the chain that does the minting of this algorithmic stablecoin can morph over time and use a basket of assets that have achieved relative stability to be able to back this dollar-based coin. So,
So
yeah,
the creator of the Maker DAO, he wrote about these things in his blog. Like he envisioned he talked a lot about these what you're talking about right now.
well, very cool.
Nick,
Yeah,
the guy that
yeah.
at Delete Shitcoin.
Oh, you actually talked about at shitcoin.
No. His ticker symbol,
Oh, his
his
handle was at.
handle on Twitter was at Delete Shitcoin.
I got it.
Yeah, he's the creator of the Maker DAO and of the DAO. So he was he actually I would say he's the father of the stablecoin. I would call him the father of DeFi as well. He said very controversial things that, and yeah, he was suicided.
Yeah, he suicided, I guess. Yeah, something
Yeah,
happened. We
so
don't know exactly what it is, but
what happened?
what the media says is one thing. What really happened, who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. So but he wrote about these things, and so I have yeah, maybe I don't know. Have you looked into what he said about these things? Because he really like almost like he said a lot of what you're saying right now. Pretty much.
Um, I
He said what
haven't,
you're saying right now.
I haven't read his sayings, but I think if you run in the circles of the people that care about an algo stablecoin, they care about it for the same reasons that I do. So I think we share some commonality there. The people that are trying to get an alternative to USDC that, you know, achieves what USDC can't and what Tether can't. Um, or we're kind of in a bit of an echo chamber. We're echoing a lot of the same narratives, right? Like that's the only way to be truly censorship resistant. How to prevent frozen funds, how to achieve a level of privacy as well, that you can't get with USDC. And so that is what I don't know if I'm calling geeking out about, but I'm excited about, and also just really, really, really want to see happen. I just really want to see that happen. And I'm open to the different mechanisms by which it evolves, whether it be, like I said, a Bitcoin script or an EVM chain or a Bitcoin layer 2, and whether or not that goes to Xano, or I've heard of other protocols, Alio, which is a full smart contract privacy chain. You could bridge to that, but I just want to see that happen. To get an actual privacy stablecoin well adopted.
Let me ask you
We'll see how it goes.
my last questions here. Is Tether
Yeah.
too big to fail?
I think nothing's quote unquote too big to fail, especially in the world of crypto. So banks were too big to fail because there was no other alternative, and so therefore governments would bail them out. But now that there are alternatives, I think none of the financial institutions are too big to fail, because you can only bail out so much when there's an exit path. So if there's no exit path from like the dollar, right, then the government can print as much as it wants. when there's an exit path from the dollar, and people can both hold and pay in a different option, the ability to print the dollar to bail out the banks starts to become very limited, because now you hyperinflate because people aren't dependent on. Sure, go print that shit. I don't care for it, right? That is what we disable that capability of the feds and the government by exiting out to other currencies. So yeah, no, they're not too big to fail. They were, because the system made it so. Crypto makes it where, no, I'm sorry, you are no longer too big to fail.
That's awesome. I what a great insight. I've never thought about it that way. I had never come to that logical realization that you just shared with us, and I really want to thank you for that. Wow, that's awesome, dude.
Well, thank you for asking.
You should write an essay about that.
I wish I wrote more. I'm terrible at writing, but I know I should write a bit more.
Are there any other actors in the space that share that opinion that you just expressed?
Sure.
So clearly, or even
I'm sure I've heard it from someone. I think I'm one of those. I have no original ideas. I just listen to some people and go, oh, that makes good sense. I like that one. So I'm sure I'm not crediting someone to what I just said, much like AI doesn't credit what it learns from other people. I'm probably doing the same thing, right? My actual intelligence is, failing in that regard. But I'm almost certain I've heard this talked about multiple times from other sources. So I'm not going to take full credit for it.
I have one more question if you're willing to take it, if you have time. One more.
Sure, let's do it.
AI.
Oh,
What is
man.
the future of AI with blockchain?
It's AI, admittedly, I think is going to bring about the dystopian world that we all fear in Hollywood and sci-fi. But it's one of those, you just can't fight it. It's like that. I don't have a good analogy for it, but you can't fight it. You can't ignore it. You can't, pretend it doesn't exist. Just like most technologies, if you don't learn to live with it, you'll just be left behind. Doesn't mean you have to like it. And so I use it pretty extensively. I even pay for it. A lot of people don't pay for, AI services. And I see how, I'm not going to say it makes our team more efficient. I'm not going to say that, because it doesn't. It helps your team keep up with how everyone else is accomplishing and leveling up their productivity. So the world is leveling up their quote unquote productivity, right? And so you've got to use it to just stay on par, right? It's not saving you any time. It doesn't save me any time, because it's stuff that we have to do in order to stay competitive. Just like it's hard to use not have a smartphone now if you want to stay competitive in the business world, right? There's no option. If we never had smartphones, you could stay competitive on that one. So its intersection with blockchain, I think they're two diametrically opposed technologies. Sure, there's some intersection, especially like the traders in the world. They're using AI to figure out signals and whatnot, and when should you buy, when should you sell, right? Sure, that's not really a marriage of the technologies per se. But I think I've said this even before ChatGPT existed. I look at Bitcoin, crypto as very libertarian, anarchist technology, and I think of AI as very communist technology. It's very centralizing. Any aspects of peer-to-peer AI is like orders of magnitude worse, in capability than fully centralized behemoth AI that's owned by the 3 to 4 biggest companies in the world. It also wants to aggregate data, just like China and its communist regime that has surveillance, everywhere, surveillance state everywhere. That's what AI is. It wants to surveil and gather as much data as it possibly can. That's how it gets bigger and smarter. That's how it knows us and how to co-opt us. And so they're completely diametrically opposed technologies. As anyone listening to this, you could probably tell I'm not the biggest AI fan, but I do use it, and I know I need to, otherwise I'll wither. And so I'll use it to try to build the freedom tech, right? So I'll use the tech that I'm not a big fan of if it helps me build the tech that I think the world absolutely needs. That's the crypto world.
What if Satoshi really gave us a market-driven AI?
I don't know what that means in nuanced, precise terms. And so whatever Satoshi brings, market-driven, like, well, what does that mean to be market driven? Like, the market pays for it, the market distributes it. It's like peer to peer, sure. But the heart of the matter of the core fundamental issue with AI is it is incredibly CPU power hungry and centralizing. Unlike Bitcoin and crypto, where you have a node that could be here, and node over there, node around the world, and boom, you're more decentralized, and it's more resilient and more hardened, and sometimes even more scalable because you have more contributors to the network around the world. AI is the opposite. If I have a GPU sitting here in my office, and you have a GPU sitting in your office and your home, and someone else in China, and blah blah blah, those GPUs have a fraction of the combined power because they're distributed and more decentralized and peer-to-peer than if we just stuck those GPUs into a closet owned by Microsoft. Right? The locality need of AI, meaning AI is most powerful when the power is local to itself. Right? They're all in the same closet, exponentially increases the power of the ability to train models and to infer models. You can do it when it's distributed, but that ability just plummets. It just takes a nosedive. It's just not cost effective. And so that's why there's these giant data centers, the size of the building I'm in that is just full of GPUs. And you're not going to be able to market drive the ownership of that, like own parts of that such that it's not co-opted. No, it's going to be one big company that owns that to give you the most powerful AI, that gives you the fastest response, that knows most about the world, so that when you chat with your chatbot, it can do the deep research, kind of things. That's going to go to the biggest companies in the world. There's like nothing that peer-to-peer is going to do to really change the power of the centralization of AI.
Are you familiar with like what Urbit attempted? And also, are you familiar with 21E8?
I'm familiar with Herb, and attempted. I'm familiar with it. I've researched it. I've read like multiple pages on it, and I still have no clue what the hell it is. Right? It sounds like the pipe dream thing that you pitch to VCs that don't have a clue, and therefore you sound smart enough for them to put money into it, which they did. 21E8, I have heard of. Obviously, it's allude to 21 million, but I don't know precisely how it intersects with AI.
So it is the constant search for the computer that we can use in clusters to create a decentralized computational data market to compete against these behemoths.
I mean, I guess you got a few different buzzwords there. Cluster, decentralized market, data market, and so
right. So what it is at the best computer to give us that right now is the Mac Mini, because the Mac Mini
it's powerful, it's small,
and you can aggregate as many Mac Minis as possible, and in other words, it scales in parallel like Bitcoin, and you can run SHA-256 through it, SHA-256 computations, and also any language model. So the big Mac Mini is almost capable right now of running DeepSeek, for example.
So capable of running DeepSeek is one thing. Being able to train DeepSeek is another. So if you're running DeepSeek, you're running a model that was trained by someone with a building full of computers, right, and GPUs. And so running is inferring. So an inference is different from training. Training is the foundation and baseline of AI, because you as the person that owns the equipment that trains the model get to choose what goes in. Right? That's how we get the control and the censorship, and how AI then becomes, how do you call it, biased in its response. It's like you've taken the little child out of the womb and you're the one that's training it. After it's trained, sure, you can go in and ask it questions, right? But this thing's already trained. It kind of knows who it is. It has its informational bias. already, and
So
and that's the control and the co-opting of AI is at the training level. There's attempts at least um, controlling and distributing the inference, and that's what like Venice AI is doing. One of um, Eric's projects, but that still doesn't take care of the training piece.
right,
Um,
so for us, like big blockers, we see micropayments as the means by which we train on chain a an AI
like
that
training
ideally
an
would,
AI on chain,
yes,
training. So with training,
yes.
Mac Minis won't hold a candle because they don't have the
No,
GPU power to train.
no,
Um,
I'll send you an article on this on the market drivers through micropayments that could lead into the training of AI when data is processed on chain. And the scalability for a decentralized competitive market of data is possible when we use infrastructure that is readily accessible to anyone. The Mac Mini is something affordable to anyone.
I have a bunch here in office. We love them. We've got like half a dozen of them here.
Yeah,
Like
so
little mini servers. They're great, but they're great for a specific use for training AI.
I'm gonna send you an interview that I did with Mark Wilcox on this topic, and I'm also going to send you an article the on the micropayment aspect on chain that could be used in the future for training AI.
All right, we'll take a look.
Cool, cool.
Yeah, dude, I look into I'm really out.
Fair enough. Someone's got to be.
Yeah, but so it's almost like, I have a friend who was the founder of Brave New Books. Do you remember Brave New Books?
Oh man, I love that place over in Austin.
Yeah. So
The
the
Harlan, yeah, the original owner, I think before they gave it up to Cat
yeah, yeah.
Fleisch.
So I was having a conversation with him and he said, Raf, in the early days, Bitcoiners would dream. And that really hit home. I'm like, you're right. Bitcoiners were dreamers
Yeah,
because we had an open, unbounded protocol with all these opcodes that really gave us the ability to even um, dream with Bitcoin as a supercomputer, uh, with a market-driven supercomputer. And so that dream's still alive. A lot of us have kept that going, and that's kind of like where my mind is constantly is in dreaming with Bitcoin, right? Dreaming with what is possible with Bitcoin. Mark Wilcox, him and everyone around that world of 21E8 have really have really pushed the agenda in this whole area of what they call their buzzword, a computational data market. And I'll send you my interview with him. I'll send you some other interviews with him that are pretty intense, um, where he really goes into it. I highly recommend everyone to actually, I'll put those interviews in the description below. I highly recommend that everyone like become acquainted with this because um, Mark Wilcox was himself a consultant for OpenAI before it went like rogue and Elon Musk them and all that. So yeah, so we are. I think there's hope. I think there's hope in terms of how you say that AI is communist. I
mhm.
think there's hope in that I think that Bitcoin could be used as the engine where we have a free market trained AI, a true free market trained
It would
AI.
be a great piece to get to. So I won't say I'm hopeful, but I want to champion any efforts that look like could circumvent the concern that I have of AI in general. So glad
So
to know that there's people trying. I'll say that much. I
for
definitely am glad to know. That's
I'm
awesome
gonna
to hear.
s- I'm gonna send you a vid the presentation on the MetaNet that was just launched yesterday.
Mhm.
Bitcoin as an internet. P2P finality in routing communication, assuring yourself that there is no eavesdropper in encrypted communication, like a phone call. I'll send you that presentation. Also was dropped yesterday. I'm going to send you stuff on 21E8, and I'm going to show you two token protocols that are modern Bitcoin token protocols, state of the art, where you don't need to index the entire blockchain. and where you have that programmability across chain with these protocols. So
Cool.
yeah, so okay, so actually I'll put that all in the description below.
All right. Yes,
Now,
please. That way everyone else can click on it. We can all chat about it together.
let's do it because I honestly think that the hijacking of Bitcoin was bigger than many even think. It was not just, in my opinion, about like taking away the fullness of P2P digital currency. I think that the hijacking of Bitcoin was deeper in that the hijacking of Bitcoin wanted to make us forget Bitcoin's computational power, and that's what we're rediscovering, you know. And that's now what even the adversaries of the original thinkers of these ideas, like Craig Wright, his adversaries are now in agreement with him. Where you see in BTC the great initiatives for the great script restoration, where you see the entirety of the infrastructure for BTC layer 2s revolving around a Bitcoin virtual machine, they're calling it, which is based on the work of, if you get down to it, Craig Wright and Script, which now Script is like the guru. Ask anybody about Xiaowei Lu in BTC circles, and they'll tell you all.
I've heard him. Yeah.
So like he's the guy that's giving seminars to all of these BTC devs, and he was someone who was a pupil of Craig Wright. So it is what it is.
Cool.
The truth is out there. So thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing your presentation on Edge in detail at our TCV summit, what matters most in crypto, which will be happening Friday, September 12th,
Sweet.
2025. So I will see you there.
Year's over half done. God damn. Cool. All right. Well, Rafael, pleasure as always. Thanks so much. We'll see you over at the TCV summit, as well everyone else.
Thank you, guys. Peace, love, anarchy.
Now we are dealing with a possible world war. Some will say we are already in a world war. My condolences and prayers go out to everyone suffering under tyranny. It really sucks. I'm really sorry. But it seems as if people are starting to wake up regarding crypto more and more each day. And so it's in the description right here to read, where we give our secret sauce and what we teach our subscribers, because things are just that bad. You know, everyone needs this information. People need to know about sound cryptocurrencies that are actually private by default, and to know how to properly use crypto.